Oh yes, T.B.Photo X1.5TFX, and welcome back to another video. Well, here I am actually reading a little bit of a free paper called the Nöjesguiden, the amusement guide. It's as I said, a free newspaper you can get in Stockholm and some other parts of the nation when you're out and about and see what's happening. But most of it is advertisements, frankly. But anyway, yes! In this episode, police horses with glasses. I mix it up right in the kitchen sink. The nickel tour of Stockholm on the water. Snapping a photo of the Prime Minister. Visiting heaven for geeks and nerds alike. Visiting a hidden gem that has been around since the 70s. And I'm hanging film out to dry. Yes, welcome back. Well, yeah, you saw a little bit about what this video is going to be surrounding for topics. But anyway, yeah, first of all, I went and I've had my summer vacation for weeks. But anyway, yeah, nothing really special happened, but I digress. I went to Stockholm a couple of times. Here in Uppsala it's called UL, Upplands Lokaltrafik, their logo. And then in Stockholm you have SL, which is Stockholms Lokaltrafik, Stockholm Local Traffic. But anyway, there is a little bit of an overlap between them. So if you go from Uppsala to Stockholm with a commuter train, you need to buy a double ticket. So because half the fare is in the jurisdiction of UL and the other half is in the jurisdiction of SL. So the best thing that you can do, actually, this is a pro tip, is you go into the app and you go to other tickets, and then you can get the UL-SL ticket 24 hours. That means that you get a ticket that is valid for 24 hours, and that means it's valid for every mode of transport that UL is having and every mode of transport that SL is having. So that's a little bit of a pro tip if you want to go around both in Uppland and Stockholm. So that's a pro tip of the day. I've shown these beforehand in my videos. I have 3 of them. They're budget action cameras by Campark, and one of them actually goofed on me and gave me corrupt data. The first one has actually worked for me. I've used this one actually underwater. It just says 30 or 3D Wi-Fi 1080p 2.0 inch. So this is basically the most simple one, but it actually functioned, and from what I've seen it actually gives me fairly decent color. It renders color very good actually, even though it's just in quotation marks full HD. Then these two, one of them, this is the Extreme 1 Plus Ultra HD 4K, and this is the Extreme 2 Ultra 4K. And of these two, the only difference really is that this one has a little bit of a LED, illuminating LED on the front, and this one actually has a liquid crystal display for times and so on. And this one, the one with the LED, the Extreme 1 Plus, is the one that goofed and gave me corrupt data. So the second time I went to Stockholm during my little vacation, I actually used the Extreme 2. But anyway, yeah, as you can also see here on the table, I have a couple of bulk loading rolls here, or at least canisters for bulk load film. And these are films that I have used during the summer and through the past year actually. Majority here is black and white. Maybe most of you might be familiar with this one. It's Ilford HP5, which is a brilliant classic grain film, 400 box speed, and there are many videos on YouTube about this one. It's a classic in its own right. Then one film that I actually think should be a little bit more used and talked about, but sadly isn't. It's Rolai, or Rolly, as many Americans pronounce it, or English-speaking people tend to pronounce it. It's the Rolly Infrared, which is also a 400 box speed film, but this one I've done, I think it was last year, I did a little bit of an experiment with this one, doing trichroma photography, but replacing the red filter with an IR filter. So you get a little bit of a mock Kodak aerochrome vibe, but that's for a future video. And then this, which was a Tradera find a couple of last year. It's a 30-meter roll of, you know, T-Max 400. But the thing with this one, yeah, this, it says here, developed before 1993, so this is an over 30-year-old film, so roll of film. So yeah, I have shot this. I got some useful video images out of it, but as stated, this was a old film stock and it had a bit of base fog to it. But yeah, and also here the one that I'm using now, Fomapan Action 400, really great film. The only thing I've had a little bit of a issue with this one, it's that the punched holes, the sprocket holes, it seems they have used probably a dull punch to it, because there were actually these little tidbits of a film in the roll when I bulk load it. So yeah, a little bit of a mixed feeling about this, but the film itself, really great result after developing and so on, but it seems like quality control leaves a little bit to be desired. But that's not really the video or the film that I wanted to enlighten you with here. It's actually this canister, Vision 3 250D, Develop ECN2. Well, I did a bit of a cross process with this because I prefer to use the Cinestill Color Easy or Easy Color, you know, C41 style. So that made this a little bit of a cross process situation. But nevertheless, I actually managed to get some really great results and so on. But when you do a cross processing, you can mess up the color balance a little bit. So in that case, you need to do something called a color check. And luckily, I found some very colorful people that helped with that aspect. And unfortunately, as I stated, the action camera did goofs. I just didn't get that much video for this little event. But anyway, here are some of the video that I managed to get, plus some of the people themselves to get some color on the situation. Yeah, colorful people indeed, yeah. And unfortunately I didn't get that much video of it. Wished I had more, because you know, all the dignitaries that went through on the parade. Yeah, but this is the camera that I used for it, the Nikon F3, which has become basically my favorite stills camera of all times. Although I should mention I own an F1, F2, F3. I actually have two of an F4 and an F5. I don't own an F6, I don't own an F100 and so on. But out of all of them, the F3 seems to be the one that ticks all the boxes of what I want in a recreational style stills camera. So yes, it does have some limitations and so on, since it's manual focus only. It's not like, for instance, the Nikon FA that has both center weighted and matrix metering, for instance. This has center weighted metering only. So yeah, but it is a bit interesting that it is modular and so on. Here's a little bit of a fact then. We're gonna continue. The second time we went to Stockholm, I still used some Vision 3 250D. So there's still gonna be stills imaging from this film stock, which I actually gonna buy more of, because this really tickled my fancy, the 250D. And with the Cinestill developing chemicals, I'm gonna show you here how I do that. Yes, I'm using a sous vide to get the color C41 chemicals up to temperature, but now it's time to handle the pesky ramjet layer, which is the drawback of using cinema style film. But that's easily remedied with bicarb of soda, which I just do a solution of about 2 tablespoons in 1 liter of warm water. I'll just now pour into the developing tank, just a little bit of a swirl to get any loose chemicals with it into the tank, and then I set the darkroom timer to 5 minutes. A little bit of a love tap in order to loosen any bubbles on the film, and then I use this stick and twirl the film around a bit. Yes, and after the 5 minutes are up, I am removing the developing tank from the water bath. I use the water bath in order to make the chemicals hold a consistent temperature. As you can see now, when I'm pouring off the bicarb solution, you get a lot of black stuff going with it, which is the ramjet layer. Then refill with fresh water and do some agitation. Sometimes you need to burp it, and you can see that more black ramjet is washed away, and you have to repeat this process about 3 to 5 times in order to get all the ramjet removed. And as you can see, when the water runs clear, it is usually done. The chart provided by Cinestill shows a number of different temperatures and corresponding time signatures in order to get the proper developing, to get results that are predictable and beneficial. In this chart you can see developing times from normal developing, as well as up to a 3-stop push processing and -1 stops of pull process. For my applications, I have chosen to use 32 degrees Celsius as my temperature of choice for color C41 developing. By highlighting the column associated with 32 degrees Celsius, we can see the different developing times and corresponding developing normal, push or pull processing. For my particular situation, I have chosen to use the push 1 processing in order to get the desired result. By intersecting the row and column of the chart, we find that our time becomes 11 minutes of total developing time. This would though be called a truth with modification, because I have decided to do a 10-minute developing time because I'm not interested in a full 1-stop push process. Finally, for the bleach fix or blix stage of the developing, I see that we get a 8 minutes of total blix time. Now it's time to put this theory into practice. First, I am pouring in the C41 developer into the tank and set the timer for 10 minutes. Do a little bit of shake and agitation in the water bath in order to keep a constant temperature. Doing some prep work in order to pour off the developing chemicals once the time is up. Please note that this is not a single-use chemical system. Pouring off of some rinsing, and now it's time for bleach fix, and this is for as required 8 minutes. So just pouring those chemicals in, the red color, tap, and into the sous vide water bath it goes. Then, after a final rinse, since we have fairly hard water here in Uppsala, I am refilling the developing tank and adding a few drops of a wetting agent. Here I'm using an Adox brand wetting agent. You just need a few drops in the developing tank with water, and that will help you to mitigate water stains on the film. Also here I am using gloves in order to also rinse the film manually. This unfortunately removes some of the wetting agent, but the reason is to remove any remnants of remjet, and as well to do a little bit of a first-hand inspection of the film as it has developed, and it looks promising as you have seen. Well, this film stock really fell into my taste and what I like to photograph and how I like to photograph things, in general, that combined with Color Plus and Kodak Gold, which are some of my preferred film stocks to use when it comes to color negative films. I've not really tried E6 that much, or a slide film, but that might be a future project. But anyway, yeah, the thing is that most times in Sweden it was actually admission free to go into museums, but unfortunately it has been changed, so now a lot of museums are you have to pay to admittance, but there are actually a few smaller exhibitions and so on that are actually free still. And the number one I would actually want to ask that it's a really great thing to go to is, if you ever go to the Vasa Museum, don't go to the Vasa Museum just yet. Just go around the museum building and go to the back side of it, and then you will be at a dock where there are 2 on display boats, or ships I should say. One is a lighthouse ship called Finngrundet, and the other one is Sweden's second icebreaker, Sankt Erik. And both of these are from the Sea Historical Society's museum, and it is actually admission free to go onto these 2 ships. And the interesting thing about Sankt Erik in particular is that first, it's just a couple of years younger than the Titanic, so it's a fully that's the second thing, the ship is fully functioning. There are actually videos on YouTube, if you search Sankt Erik icebreaker, where this ship is in action. Yeah, that's a little bit of an interesting thing about that, that you can go on the backside of the Vasa Museum and you have 2 ships, if you're interested in maritime history, that are free to go and visit. Well, then a little bit of hidden gems. I've talked a bit about museums too, in particular out in Djurgården, which are basically free admission to, but there are also a couple of stores and so on that when you go to, if you visit Stockholm from the central station's point of view, there are a couple of other stores that should be, they're a little bit hidden gems of the city. Yes, the first stop off the train was SKO-UNO, SKO-UNO, which has nothing to do with the card game. It's actually a name in Swedish, UNO. So this store has anything and everything if you're into Americana of all shapes and sizes. Ah yes, this store has been around since 1977 and is located at the corner of Klara Norra Kyrkogata and Gamla Brogatan in Stockholm. As you can see, these guys have everything and anything Americana as stated. So yeah, enjoy. Yes, after leaving SKO-UNO, just a stone's throw away is their sister store, Jeans-UNO, which is anything and everything denim related. So two classical fashion stores right next door to each other. On our way to the next store, we passed Sergels Torg, also known as the Plate or Plattan, which unfortunately has had a bit of a shamed reputation of being a place for drug trafficking. Ah yes, Drottninggatan 20, Bengans Musik. This is a classic record store. They have a few locations around Sweden, but this is the main one, so to speak, in Stockholm. As you can see, just enjoy the goodies you see on the shelves of all new and old in vinyl record, CDs, books, and all types of band merchandise. Really brilliant place if you're a music fanatic. the way to Old Town, Gammla Stan, you actually pass through the Parliament building. So here's the Swedish government have their headquarters, and it's open to the public to stroll through the arches from Drottninggatan to Gammla Stan, which we have just entered. One store in Gammla Stan, Old Town, I have to do a shout out to is Bruno's Bildverkstad, or Bruno's Image Workshop, which is a classic camera store with a lot of vintage gear on display that I have actually also bought from in the past, online that is. So really recommended, and yeah, this might be something for a future installment. Ah yes, the science fiction bookstore. If you're nerds and geeks of all stripes will be able to find something that tickles their fancy in this iconic bookstore mitt in Gammla Stan, Old Town, Stockholm. I mean, this is basically a Comic Con in miniature that is around the year round. I mean, this is a brilliant place. Unfortunately, I didn't find anything worth getting this time, but just walking around here among the shelves with everything from classic comics to new style comics, manga, and also, you know, old classic science fiction books, and even miniature wargaming, and so on and so forth. As stated, everybody who has any type of nerdy interest will find something in this store. Leaving Gammla Stan behind us, we're going down to the waterfront and jumping on to SL, Stockholm Local Traffic, line number 82, Djurgårdsfäjan. If you want the cheapest and most price-worthy sightseeing tour of Stockholm, this is the one to get. And since we went with the 24-hour SLUL tickets, this is actually a part of the package. So we just walk onto these ferries and off we go. So it's a beautiful day, as you can see here, with the boat traffic and so on. And, you know, yeah, it can be a little bit cramped depending on the time of the day, but the best way to get around and circumvent a lot of traffic, this is it. And you have a view that is unsurpassed, at least in Stockholm. This is the best way of seeing places like Skeppsholmen. You can see the entire of the amusement park Gröna Lund from the water, and so on and so forth. Really highly recommended. Well, this was a bit of a surprise. It apparently at Djurgården there is a diving museum. This was something that was always open on Saturdays, and it is the Swedish Dive Historical Society that owns this exhibition, and the Rec Museum next door are the ones that are keeping this place open. And you know, shout out to Alec Pierce of Alec Pierce Scuba to see if you know, that's a guy that has a impressive vintage scuba collection, and I would bet that he would recognize quite a few things in this museum. But also, as a scuba diver myself, this was also a treat indeed to be able to witness these artifacts, and some of them through proper maintenance and care are still usable. For me, it was really here on the top floor to see the photographic exhibition, and when I started to realize that I actually owned a few fair parts of the exhibition at home myself. But anyway, this was a spare of the moment thing, but I really enjoyed it. This was kid in candy store moment, at least for me.
Surfing on a wave of good feelings. Well, it's just another Friday in paradise. So bring your A game, 'cause you know this party won't stop. We can never run out of time sipping strawberry lime. You know I wanna share it with you, share it with you, share it with you. Hey baby, if you're looking for some crazy, I tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over, we can take the roller coaster, and you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide, water slide.
Yeah, but I think that that's all for me for this time, and as always, this is Tobias Bergström from T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and I'd like to see you guys in the next video. And thanks for enduring my little rant here, so take care from now on. Bye.